contested election you will find in the history of Nigeria. The Fourth Republic and the governorship of Lagos State has been an often hotly contested seat. Welcome to Let's Talk Politics, an AIG Media Pro. And we're going to have a big discussion this day because we're looking at a candidate of the Action Democratic Party, Babatunde Badamasi. Tunde Badamasi is a real estate developer and he's been in this for a number of years. I can remember previous elections where he's thrown his hat into the ring to contest for the seat of Lagos State. Welcome to Let's Talk Politics.
Thank you.
I'll take you back, but before I even take you back a number of years when you did contest for this seat, I'll take you up on what goes through your mind when you wake up in the morning, the last thing that goes through your mind when you hit the sack to go to bed. And you are asked the question, now that you're the candidate of the ADP, why do you want to be governor of Lagos State?
I believe I can bring far more value to the office of the governor than we've had in the last 19 years. I believe I have a wealth of experience that Lagos actually needs in terms of the individual needs of Lagosians. What do Lagosians need right now? We need better roads in order to be able to spend less time traveling. Okay? We need electricity in order to, reduce the amount of money we spend to get power, okay, on a daily basis. We need water to improve our general health and hygiene, sanitation, okay. We need an economy in order to start growing for a change and stop stagnating. Now, all of these things, in addition to health, education, women's affairs, youth issues, all of these issues, by the time you look at them all and you look at the wealth of experience that I've had over the last few years, especially building an urban environment far away in Ibejuleki, I think you'll find that I'm probably the most qualified person in this contest to provide the needs of Lagosians.
It's a massive state. Last census put us closer to 20 million than lower than 20 million. Big population, big problems. You've mentioned a couple of those problems we face. But I'm sure that you're thinking on the back of your mind that we've had several administrations come to try to solve the problems of Lagos, but we've seen increasingly bad infrastructure, levels of poverty on the increase, unemployment, such a huge problem here, but yet the city continues to grow. It's a city that cannot stop growing. Some people have joked. What do you think? You've got a silver bullet to solving these problems. If you were asked what was your plan in helping resolve these problems,
the truth is, if
one takeaway you say you can work on?
If there was any silver bullet, I think it would be transparency. Transparency, prudence in public expenditure, and a better compensation culture than we have now. Now, if you can get those three things going, I think that will be well on the way to solving the problems of Lagos. The reason we don't have such good infrastructure is because we waste so much money on the little work that has been done over the last 19 years, and it is a little work. It's nothing impressive. I mean, especially if you take a snapshot of the Jakonde administration from 35 years ago and you compare that to the last 19 years, you realize that in the last 19 years we've done precious little to improve our infrastructure, and we can do better. We can do better if we spend our money wisely, if we are more prudent with public funds, if we don't decide, to feed a particular monkey on our backs, if we insist that public funds be spent only on the public and not on anybody else, if we insist that public assets remain in public ownership and do not get converted into private property, the way, for instance, an educational facility in Nkosi was converted to a private media empire. There are a lot of issues, and all of them revolve around issues of transparency and honesty.
Yeah, transparency is such a huge issue. I know the Lagos State budget is one of the most secret documents there is, but I'll come to that much later on. But tell me something. You talked about 19 years, which will mean this fourth republic, beginning from 99 until date. We've had one party, either the party has changed its name and moved to another party.
We've had one person. Let's be a little more accurate. We've had one individual in charge of Lagos.
Are you concerned when you think about you've had one election, after the next election, you've tried with the People's Democratic Party, now you're with the ADP. You think you're formidable enough to go head to head with the AC, with the APC as it is today and get results?
On my own, no. On my own. But I think that the people of Lagos are formidable enough to take care of themselves, when push comes to shove. And push definitely has come to shove. If we're spending 3 hours to get to work, another 4 hours to get back home, nobody's taking care of our children. We're leaving our children in the care of helps. What values are they getting? We have no electricity. We have a serious housing deficit. Our healthcare system has all but collapsed. Now, all of these issues need addressing. Lagosians are acutely aware of this, and they are determined now more than ever before to see a change. Now, what type of change do Lagosians want? I think it's a change for the better, not a change for the worse. Lagosians are not looking now for change, for its own sake.
When you hear the incumbent, for example, say things like, look, a lot of problems Lagos is facing is not necessarily problems that have happened because of it, but problems that can be traced to external factors. Take, for example, the trucks and tankers that are parked all across the highways and bridges in the state haven't happened because of what the current government is doing, but because of what is happening outside its control. What would you say about that? Do you think it's...
Well, I would first of all make some attempt, at providing for the surfeit of trucks that visit the Apapa axis to pick up either petrol or, petroleum products, or to pick up containers at the port. I would first address that. Okay, now, has there been anything done to make, for instance, a lorry park available in the Apapa area, large enough to contain, say, for instance, 2,000 trucks? I don't see any attempt being made to do that, and that's something that the state government could handle. Now, if we were able to do that, if we were able to provide parking for 2,000 trucks in one spot within the Apapa axis, I think that a lot of the trucks we see on the bridges would simply not be there. And we could isolate the problem to just the Apapa axis alone, and it would not begin to affect the whole of the metropolis the way it's doing now, so that people in Maza, people in Amuwo Odofin, people in Satellite Town are bearing the brunt. People on the Ikorodu Road, people living in the Ikorodu Road axis are bearing the brunt of whatever inefficiencies that the federal government is, perpetrating within the port complex. Yes, of course, I agree with the fact that the customs people have made a mess of international trade, that the Nigerian Ports Authority have, retrogressed, so to speak, in terms of their efficiency and their ability to clear containers in and out on time. There's no doubt about that, but we know what the problem is, and we can solve the problem, at least the problem of traffic.
I'll put you on the pause. When we come back, we'll continue with our discussion with Candidate, the Lagos State Governorship candidate of Action Democratic Party, Babatunde Gbadamosi. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Let's Talk Politics. I'm talking with governorship candidate of the Action Democratic Party, Babatunde Gbadamosi, and we're talking about transportation, such a big talking point. I remember a couple of years when the BRT happened, and the government said then that we had planned for at least 100,000. They got 1 million people on the first day, and since then, looks like we've been chasing. Meeting this demand. Lagos moving around is becoming a Herculean task for people who reside in this big city. What do you think about transportation here? You satisfied with what you see on the ground, or you think a lot more still has to be done?
for those of us that travel quite often, and there are many of us in Lagos that are quite mobile, quite international, we use public transport when we go to foreign climes. We don't drive our cars. We go on the trains, on the buses to get around, and it's very convenient. Now, why isn't Lagos that way? It's simply because the quality of people that we've elected, that we've allowed to get into the public space, is simply just appalling. The quality of thought that they're able to bring to the table is, disgraceful. And until and unless we're able to change these people, everything to do with Lagos is going to remain not pedestrian, at a crawling stage. So what we need to do as far as transportation is bring a basket of solutions to the table. We need to exploit our waterways better than we're doing now. You see these small platforms that they have that carry 30, 40 people at a time, they just won't do. We need catamaran boat systems that will carry like 1,000 passengers, about 50 cars, 10 trucks. That's the sort of platforms that we need on our waterways. Yes, I agree that there are areas in which the lagoon is shallow, but dredging can address that. Targeted dredging can address those issues. We can dredge specific channels for vessels of that sort of size to pass. If we use catamarans, the kind of draft that they will need will not be as much as for single-hulled vessels. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is rail. I see the rail solution that the Fashola administration started. Till now, they haven't finished. Again, it comes down to corruption. At the time the Fashola administration started constructing that rail line, the Addis Ababa to Djibouti rail line was also started in Ethiopia. That rail line has now been completed for about 4 years, and it's been in use since then. 47 kilometers. It cost about about 400 and something million US dollars, as against the billions of dollars that the 15-kilometer Lagos State line is costing. Now, the question for us is, will that be adequate to service 24 million people? And the answer, obviously, is no. It's not going to do the job. So we need something a little more robust than that. We need something a little more better planned than that. And I would go personally for high-speed rail, a standard gauge rail infrastructure running from Badagry to Odeomi in Ekpe local government area on the border with Ogun State. So from one border to the next, okay, we're talking a distance of about 160, maybe 180.
You still want to go ahead with the plan that's already existed?
No. This is a different plan from the one that they have now. Okay, the one they have now stops at CMS. What I want to do is take the line all the way from Badagry town itself and take it all the way to Odeomi, where the Lagos State border with Ogun State is. Now, if we do that with high-speed rail platforms running from about 250 to 350 kilometers per hour, you can guarantee that you'll be able to take a trip from Badagry to Ekpe and finish it in maximum 1 hour. Okay. Now, if we have one as a fast train and we have one as a slow train, the slow train can finish the trip in about an hour. The fast train will probably finish it in about half an hour.
Lagos State is such a huge state in terms of attracting investors. Investors come in regularly. You've mentioned
the size of the market will attract investors anyway, just the sheer size.
Absolutely. And then you have projects, for example, like the Free Trade Zone. You have the Eco-Atlantic City. You have a number of ambitious projects going on. Some have begun.
Well, Eco-Atlantic City is a private sector project. It's not government-led.
Are you concerned when even the projects are working, public-private partnership, and private investors say, we're concerned that a new governor comes in, is not going to be continued where his predecessor was? Are you concerned with this sort of?
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. The truth is, not every project that the previous administrations have started has been in the public interest. That is the truth. And this is the reason why the state is in the condition that it's in. So there are some projects that we will not continue. And there are some that we will, retune, fine-tune, and perhaps continue, perhaps adjust a few things about them. Like, for instance, the BRT scheme. I don't know why, there is any reason to call it any special name. It's simply a bus service, all right? I know that this previous administration has a thing with acronyms and slogans. And those slogans have not helped Lagosians. Those acronyms have not helped Lagosians. As far as I know, it's just a bus service. Okay, it's like going to London and calling the London bus service some snazzy name just to make it seem like it's something new. It's nothing new. We've had the LSTC, the Lagos City Transport Company. We've had the LMTS, Lagos Municipal Transport Service. We've had different iterations of bus services in Lagos. I don't see the need for anybody to come up with a new name if they're not just looking for ways of siphoning funds, maybe for branding or for whatever purposes. And then the whole idea of digging up the middle of the road and putting bus stops bang in the middle of expressways, I totally disagree with it. I don't think it makes sense. I think it exposes the public to unnecessary risk. That is the commuting public. The service lanes are there for a reason. And it is precisely for reasons of bus stops and things like that. That's why the service lanes are there.
Let's talk economy.
Yes.
1 in 5 Lagosians is taxed. A number of candidates. I remember I had a discussion sometime with Jimmy Agbaji. Coincidentally, he's going to be running for the People's Democratic Party. And he said, look, we already have a problem in terms of people being taxed. People think they pay more taxes in Lagos than they pay any other place or state in this country. The land use increase that happened a couple of months ago, a lot of people have traced it down to the possibility of Kiwumi Ambode, for example, to come back for a second term because of the public reaction that happened afterwards. Raising revenue in Lagos is such a huge problem. So we're acquiring debts. I know that you're grossly embarrassed by those debts, but it looks like there's no way out in terms of raising money. If you overtax the people and can't go out and borrow money, how else do you want to make money for the state?
Well, again, like I said, a lot of the projects that this 19-year administration has embarked on are not necessarily in the public interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to refocus public expenditure on the public. Okay, we're going to stop this whole idea of taking public funds and putting them into private projects or taking public assets and putting them into private ownership just to satisfy the financial monkey on our back, so to speak. What we need to do with regard to taxation, with regard to revenue, I think that's what you're driving at.
Revenue generation.
Revenue generation. What we need to do is target our resources strategically. I'm a businessman. I don't believe that it's possible for you to go and take profit from where you did not invest. However, that's what's been going on in Lagos State for the last 19 years. And that's the reason the system is creaking to an avoidable halt. What we need to do is invest. Government needs to invest. This is not about public-private partnerships or any, fancy acronym of the like. Like, for instance, now, we intend to build a new economy using transparency as the foundation. We're going to build it on 5 pillars. Tourism. That's the lowest hanging fruit available. We have the resources, the entire Atlantic coast that's available to Lagos in Badagry local government, Etiosa local government, and the Beduleki local government. That's a resource that we've never really, gone out of our way to tap properly. But we're going to do that in my administration. We need to build, for instance, the Lekki Coastal Road, which will run from Legali Ayorinde. We're going to make it 10 lanes. We're going to have a setback of about 150 to 200 meters for that expressway. And it's going to run all the way from Legali Ayorinde and go all the way to Odiomi. Okay? The entire beachfront that we're going to be leaving, the entire setback for the beachfront, we're going to be filling the beachfront so that we can recover every little piece of real estate that has been eroded by the sea. We're going to refill it. Fortunately, we have links with some of the best dredging companies in the world, and some of them have actually come to work in Nigeria in the last few years for private projects. But we're going to bring these guys back, and we're going to fill out the whole Atlantic seafront for the purpose of starting a tourism industry, a proper tourism industry in Lagos.
So that we don't let out all the plants and thinking.
So like I said, it's 5 pillars. There's tourism, there's agriculture, there's technology, there's entertainment, and finally, there is industry.
Finally, before I let you go and let's talk politics, since we talk about saving the best for the last, you become governor, for instance, but then you're faced with a huge problem, parliament. The possibility that you have a parliament where your party, for example, is not in charge, what happens?
Well, look, I'm going to assume that everybody that wants to get elected in Lagos for one office or the other wants to work for the people. We hope that that's the case. Now, if this is the case, then we will be able to get along quite easily. We've had, we have precedents in history, in Lagos State history, of an Otedola of the NRC winning the governorship election. And almost the entire parliament of the day was SDP. He had just 4 legislatures out of 44 in his party. And yet he managed to run the government for about 3 years before the military intervened. So can it work? Lagos is unique in that regard. Lagosians are very smart people. Lagosians are very intelligent people. Lagosians are very wise people. And it is only in Lagos that that type of Otedola scenario could ever have happened. It could never have happened in any other state. And we believe that Lagosians, being the smart, strategic people that they are going to, send a message with this next election.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We've been speaking with the candidate of the Lagos State governorship candidate of Action Democratic Party, Babatunde Gbadamosi. We've been speaking on a wide range of issues on Let's Talk Politics. See you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been nice.